Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches English Language. In this video, I am going to be talking to you about creative writing. Now, regardless of what exam board you are studying with, creative writing will play a part of your English language GCSE. It might be that you're examined on it and therefore have to write in time conditions. It might be that you get to write coursework, in which case you'll have a little bit more kind of planning and editing time. But there are still so many things that are important either way. This video is going to focus on planning and that kind of 5-minute planning that you have to do in the exam. It's going to focus on why planning is important, and I'm just going to give you a bit of a structure for how to make that plan in the exam. So let's get started. So the first thing that I hear from my students when we start doing creative writing, when I say that they have to do a plan, is, ugh, do I have to? Do the examiners care? Will they mark my plan, or will they deduct points if they can't see a plan? And the fact is that the plan is there to help you, which is why I've put this well-known phrase up here: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You've got between 45 minutes and an hour to write a convincing and engaging piece of creative writing. So you've got to know what your stages are and where you're going, because believe me, those who don't know the endings of their stories before they begin tend to get lost along the way, and an examiner or any reader is going to pick up on that. So I'm just going to take you through some basic planning and some stages to go through to help you out. So the narrative arc is the first place to start. You need to think about the basic arc of your story or journey that any story is going to go on. So I've nabbed this very useful little cartoon that takes you through the main stages. So the exposition basically just means your starting point, your opening, the developing of your setting, the introduction of your characters. Then, as the story progresses, there's going to be an inciting incident. So that first thing that happens that sets your story off. Rising action that builds to a crisis, the climax of the crisis, and then all that is left to go is what we call the denouement, which is about reaching closure, tying up all the loose ends of the story. And this is your basic narrative: setting, development, climax, resolution. So when you're doing your planning, you need to think around 4 key areas that look a little bit like this. So when you're planning in the exam, or you're just planning because you're doing a bit of creative writing for yourself, try and just jot down a few ideas to hit these 4 basic stages: the opening, the development, the climax, the resolution. Now, GCSE exam boards tend to set tasks that are not necessarily the most inspiring, but it gives you a lot of free rein. So let's have a think about this as an example. Write about a time when you or someone you know did something exciting. So free rein really here. I'm going to give you an example of what I would use. And now this is something that I have done when I was 21 years old. My best friend bought me a flying lesson, even though she knew full well that I was terrified of flying. But I will always say thank you to her, because it actually stopped me from being fearful. So I would use that day as inspiration for this story, because it was an incredibly exciting event. So my opening, I would start the moment that I got onto the plane. Okay, I wouldn't start kind of, oh, I woke up in the morning realizing that this was the day that I was going to get on an aeroplane. No, start straight into the action. So my opening would be stepping onto the plane for the first ever flying lesson, and I would use that sense of nerves, excitement, anticipation to give some characterization. My development would be when the plane took off, and that would give me an opportunity for some really nice descriptive writing, because I could describe what I could see out of the aeroplane windows. I live on an island, so lots of beautiful things to describe as the island meets the sea. The climax would be, and the developing from the development to the climax would be when the instructor started telling me how safe it was, even if he was to switch off the engine. And after a little while of threatening this, he did. He turned off the engine and the plane went boom. And I saw the sort of propellers starting to slow with my absolute fear and horror. But my resolution, of course, would be the relief when I realised that it was perfectly safe. He obviously turned the engine back on and we landed. That is totally doable to do in 45 minutes to an hour, but I know exactly what I need to hit in each stage. Is it going to set the world alight? No, but it's an exam. 45 minutes to an hour, so you've got to do something manageable. And on that note, I just want to go through some of those do's and don'ts for when you're generating your ideas. So, as I've just illustrated, do write what you know. They're expecting you to be 16-year-olds sitting the exam. They don't expect you to be Stephen King, and you don't have a lot of time to come up with ideas. So write from experience or from the wealth of experience that you and your friends and your relatives have. However, to embellish what you know. So some people say, but yeah, Miss, nothing really very exciting has happened to me. Well, come on, you've gone on a walk and found a really cool area of woodland that you could then maybe decide that you've got lost in, or you've gone swimming in the sea and perhaps got yourself stuck in some really big waves, or you've gone surfing before. Anything that you have a kind of life experience of, you can then embellish and make more exciting. So write what you know, but with a little added oomph, okay? You don't have to be full on truthful. So do plan for creative crafting. Don't just think that you're going to sort of vomit that on the page as it happens. So just as I did in mine, when I thought, okay, when we take off, that's going to be a really good opportunity for descriptive language. I'm going to use some really good metaphors. Perhaps I might incorporate some pathetic fallacy. In the moment where the engine switches off, I'm going to use some really good structural features. I'm going to vary my sentences. I might even use, maybe a one-word paragraph or a one-sentence paragraph to create a bit of drama. So do plan, think, how am I going to get those in? And keep yourself to a sort of time limit per section. If you spend 2 pages on the opening describing the exquisite smell of the bacon sandwich that you could smell from your bedroom when you woke up the morning that you were going to do something exciting, you've lost your examiner. They're bored. So get to the action as quickly as you can. Although I know you want to, don't try to write an epic galactic space mission, as you don't have time. The moment that you start thinking about 2 warring races on the planet, whatever, you're gonna create something that is too big for that 45 minutes to an hour. You keep that for writing at home, writing your first novel. That's when you've got time for epic galactic space missions. Your GCSE exam is not the place for it. Sorry to be a buzzkill. Keep it simple. Plan enough time for proofreading as well. Yes, make sure that you've planned 5 minutes at the end, but if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know the advice I'm also going to give you. Proofread as you go. Write a paragraph, check it through for mistakes, then write the next paragraph so that you'll keep your brain focused on what you need to do. If you have a tendency to comma splice, check each paragraph through as you go, or if you forget your capital letters, check each paragraph as you go through. So that's just a few little tips to get you going with your planning. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because the next series of videos are going to take you through different parts of your creative writing, using structural features, using language devices, how to have an engaging opening, focusing on characterization. So all really, really helpful, regardless of which exam board you're doing, for any kind of creative writing. Thank you so much for watching, and happy writing.